All right, folks, 9 o'clock, Sunday. It's the Crack House Podcast. My name's Mike O'Sullivan. Joining me as always in all things Crack House, my man Chris Muscalino. What's up, dude?
Big Mike, what's good, man? How's your week?
Nothing, just a lot of shit going on. I think I got COVID again. I don't know.
You know, every time I get a cough, I think the same shit.
I don't know, man. I felt like real run down this week. I don't know.
I'm not run down, but like the last, I had the vaccine, the first shot last Friday, so I've been kind of going to spots without my mask, and usually I mask up. But you come home and like you have a cough here or there, and it's like, oh fuck, do I have? Excuse my language. Do you have COVID again? And it's tough to say. I don't know what to believe. I mean, do you? I guess you can get it. Even if you have the vaccine, there's breakthrough cases. Can you get it without after your second dose or after your first dose? I don't know. I mean, I probably should still wear my mask until I get the second one. But to be honest with you, I really don't go anywhere. But I'm with you, man. You get some shakes or you get some weird symptoms, and immediately your first thought is, boom. Do I have this crap again?
Yeah, I wasn't feeling good this whole week. I don't know. I don't know if I got it. I don't know if it's going to be another wave. I don't know how bad it's going to be. I don't care. I got vaccinated. It is what
Would
it is.
would you get retested, Mike, or you just ride it out?
I think I'm going to ride it out because I don't feel that bad right now. So
Okay.
I guess the vaccine works in the sense of like it doesn't give you that severe case of it. So
That's what I hear. I mean, the odds are if you get vaccinated, I think the likelihood of you getting hospitalized or dying is very minimal. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, can you? Yeah, I don't like the fact that you get the vaccine and you can still potentially get it. I think that kind of defeats the purpose of getting a vaccine. But whatever, man. I'm on board. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Hopefully, I don't get it again. Hopefully, I don't get anybody sick. I'll probably wear my mask, going forward until I get the second shot, and
yeah.
we'll go from there, man.
All right. All right. So let's get into it this week. What do we got? We were talking about that. We were talking during the week, like what we wanted to do, and 9/11 we're going to talk about in a little. I guess we could start off with it. It's the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah,
And
man. I mean, there's a lot of different angles that we can take with this, Mike. We've hit on it, since I've come aboard the show, and listen, for New Yorkers especially, I think more so than anywhere else, and I don't mean to minimize anybody in Pennsylvania or in the Pentagon, but New York got the brunt of that crap. And I think as New Yorkers and as a country, I think that's really the last time over the last 20 years that as a country, I think we're unified, for what it's worth. I've got friends of all different cultures and nationalities and races and creeds. I've had everybody say similar stuff, like when that stuff happened, I think as a country, we were more unified than everything. Let me ask you this. I mean, on a different note, going to 9/11, where were you that day?
I was home.
You were
I
home.
was home. I was supposed to go into work at 3 in the afternoon that day,
Okay.
and everything happened. I got a phone call at my house. My partner called me up. He's like, "Get into work now." And my wife woke me up. She was like, "A plane just hit the World Trade Center." I
Yeah.
was like, "Really?" And then it was like another plane, and then all hell just kind of like broke loose. And I always say like the weirdest thing. I hate to like personalize it because people always want to make a lot of people make this day about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but one of the things I just remember about it going into work was being like the only car on the Triborough Bridge that day, and then looking over to my left and just seeing Lower Manhattan was just covered in smoke,
Yeah.
and it was just really weird. And listen, I was no hero. I didn't go down there probably till 24 hours later. My first day there, my first day on 9/11 my job was to go guard a firehouse in the Bronx,
Wow.
because basically every firehouse went down there. There were tons of Manhattan cops already down there, and they did pull in everyone from all over the city, and they would just like, it was just mass chaos, and no one really knew what to do at the time. So it was like, well, there's no one in these firehouses. Go sit in the firehouse. So I
Right.
basically just guarded a firehouse for about 8 or 9 hours that day. Then I got transferred to like another post somewhere in the Bronx, I think down by Yankee Stadium, for like another 6 or 7 hours, till they like, the first couple of days, it was all like trying to figure out schedules of like, what are we going to do with cops? Like, what hours are they going to work? Because they basically just broke us up into two groups. In the beginning, it was you were working from 4 in the afternoon till 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I think they switched it around to like 6 at night till 6 in the morning. We were all working like 12-hour tours every day for, I think that went on for about 5 or 6 months, if I remember correctly. And it was
Crazy.
just, and like I said, I went down there like the next day. The one thing I remember the most, like the one word that was always used a lot about being down there was surreal. And it was like one of them, it looked like a movie set of like a disaster film. Like you know, you saw pieces of the Twin Towers still standing, those spires, I guess they were called, on the bottom. Like
Right.
I saw pieces that was still up, but the structure, there was just like, everything was just covered in like this weird gray dust. There were papers from like these offices all over the place. You just smell, there was just this burning smell. I mean, the fire lasted there for what? I think like 3 or 4 months afterwards.
Dude, that was pretty crazy. I mean, I had started dating my wife, and we had a party over the weekend. I was back in Astoria, going back and forth, and that morning I was home with chicken pox. I got sick like the day before. I was 28, 29 at the time, and I never had chicken pox. And I came home. I didn't feel well. I woke up. My mother called me. I think she was working with your mom at the elections that day. They were doing like the state or the city elections. So
Yeah.
they were up at 122, and she called me and she's like, "Wake your father up. Your brother and sister are in the city. You know, there's a nuclear war going on." I go, "What are you talking about?" I turned on the television. I saw the first tower on fire. I went upstairs to wash my face and get the crap out of my eyes, and I had chicken pox. It was like all over my face, and all that kept on running through my mind is like, "Yo, it's the end of the world. I got chicken pox. We're all gonna die, and I got this crap all over my face and body." Then I went downstairs. I came back down. I watched the second one get hit. Then we started scrambling. We couldn't get in touch with Jason and my sister Michelle. Jason was taking a plumbing examination across the street from the building, from the Twin Towers. Michelle was downtown, and me and my father drove to like the 59th Street Bridge, like maybe 4 or 5 in the afternoon. I guess when everybody started walking over, and they're like covered in shit, like white stuff
Yeah, yeah.
on them, So, and I had chicken pox. I mean, that's all I really remember. It was just whacked out. But yeah, I was home that day. My father was sleeping. My mom was at the 122, and a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many stories that I heard where people kind of lucked out. They didn't go into the Twin Towers because of the elections that were going on that day,
Yeah.
or they just for whatever reason didn't go to work
Well,
that
there was,
day.
what was that one, that there was that one company, I think it was called Canna Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Canna Fitzgerald. I actually I got interviewed for that place, and well after 9/11, and unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I didn't take the job, Mike, because the way I rationalized it, it was like taking a job on the Titanic too. So like
Yeah.
say for example, there was a Titanic 2, and okay, Mike, do you want to be like service person or like a sailor on the Titanic? I'm like, I couldn't bring myself to do it, so I
But
turned the job down.
yeah, but like you were saying, like people that got lucky, supposedly the CEO of that company,
He didn't go to work that day. Yeah,
yeah, the story was he took his kids to school that day and he never took his kids to school.
right.
That was the story I heard. I mean,
Basically,
yeah, it
the
was,
whole firm got wiped out. We
yeah,
knew people. There were 2 or 3 guys from St. John's that worked there. I think Macho probably knows him. When he comes on later, you can ask him about it. And I think they were like on the 132nd floor. Man, they were cooked.
yeah.
There was just no way they were getting out of that. And Listen, man, we've talked about it throughout the episodes that we've done together. I mean, you and I were traveling in different circles. You were well into your police career. I was still in the brokerage business. I was going back and forth between the island and Astoria. Um, my thoughts of it, number one, I just think as a country, I don't think since then we've ever been remotely unified like we were that
Well,
that day and afterwards.
the only other
Actually,
the only
uh,
other time is when they killed Bin Laden and everyone went nuts.
yeah, yeah.
That's probably it.
And you know what?
Everything else.
Listen. I voted for him the first time around, and I'll tell you this: I give Obama a lot of credit. You know, Obama. You know, for what it's worth, the president gets credit for doing that kind of stuff. What always stuck in my craw with Bush was the fact that we went to war, we went, into Iraq, and I didn't have a problem with any of that. But get the guy that did it. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
and I know there's conspiracy theories. Well, we never saw the bodies, so it didn't really happen. But I do give, I do give Obama credit for the fact that he got him.
Yeah.
And for New Yorkers, and I think everybody in this country, I think that was a big thing. We'd spent what 7, 8 years, looking for this guy, and they can ping you on a cell phone, Mike, but they can't find one of the mass terrorists. I mean, it just always struck me as kind of funny.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you could. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but there's another conspiracy theory. Did they really kill
Yeah, that's what I'm saying because they didn't see the body,
him?
right?
Yeah.
But listen, I think they got him. I just think I think the rationale behind not showing the body was the fact that they didn't want to antagonize them and show the body and have these people go crazy again
Yeah.
and try to strike out against us. But it was just like you said, it was a very surreal day. You know what? I'm watching the Met Yankee game before. The Yankees been doing horrible, and the Mets have unfortunately been beating their pants off the last day or two. But I remember going to the Piazza game at Shea Stadium with my wife. And you want to talk about surreal events? That was about 2 or 3 weeks after 9/11.
Yeah, that was the first baseball game after
Yeah,
9/11.
me and my wife went there. Liza Minnelli sang in the seventh inning, and I'll tell you what, man, that's like one of the goosebump moments I've been in sports. I've been to a lot of sporting events throughout my life. I haven't been to a Super Bowl, but I'll tell you what, that game ranks right up there with anything I've seen.
Yeah.
Especially when she came out in the seventh inning and sang, God Bless America, New York was just unbelievable, Mike. I mean, you don't have to be a Met fan or a Yankee fan to realize that. I know the Giants and Jets did some stuff afterwards, and the Yanks did. Obviously, they went to the World Series that year and lost. But that day at Shea, man, it was a magical, magical, magical day. And I do think I just saw something with Joe Buck. He was talking about how like should we have gone to that game? Should they have played that game? And the answer him and his father was like a resounding yes. It was almost therapeutical for the country and for the city that day. So
All right.
listen, man. I mean, we could talk about it a lot. I mean, I'm sure that you have friends, on the force and otherwise that were affected. I did too. Both on and off. The two guys that I know that passed away from brain cancer, they were, firemen, FDNY, and Port Authority cop. Both young guys. The guy I talked about a couple months ago is 45 years old. Paul, my other buddy, was 33. Both 20 years after the fact, 10 years after the fact, struck down by illnesses from that stuff. And I'll tell you the last thing, and maybe we'll move on with this because I don't want to be too morbid about it, but I'll never forget that morbid damn smell, Mike. And I know I brought this up to you before, like having the windows open in the back of my parents' house and just smelling that damn plastic smell, man. Unbelievable. Just for weeks after, like that crap coming off the East River, just
Yeah.
absolutely horrible. But
No, it was yeah, and it was disgusting. I mean, like we walked around in it, we breathed it in. Thank God, most of my friends, no one's really gotten seriously ill from it. There's been that there was something said a long time ago, like right when this happened. A buddy of mine posted it on Facebook, and he said it was true. He goes, "More people are going to die from the effects of 9/11 than from 9/11. You'll see
right,
it in
right,
about 20 to 25 years." And I mean, all the first responders that went down there, the cops, firemen, EMS, all the people that worked on it, the iron workers, the crane operators, everyone that was down there that had was just all breathing it in. Like the mask you're wearing now for COVID is what people were wearing down there. They had no idea what was in the air. They said it was safe. and obviously it wasn't, because you see now the effects of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, a couple of your friends, there's been a few hundred, I think, cops that have died since 9/11 with crazy cancers. Same thing for the FD guys.
I think
Same.
Jules retired afterwards too. He was running marathons up until that point. I think he got
Yeah.
affected by it, right?
Yep. He retired right after it. Yeah. It's just like one of those things. Like you just you can't believe it happened, but it happened, and it's something you just look back, like those memories never get out of your head. Like I remember what that place will look like for the rest of my life, walking around down there and seeing what was going on. And like you could, just like you said, the smells, especially I worked down there a lot of times at night, and just these bright naked lights on this pile was, it
Were
really
you
was,
uh
it
were
was
you
something
down there
out.
digging those guys out and stuff, digging
Yeah,
survivors out or
like
no?
we helped on piles. I was never there where a survivor came out or a body came out. But like I said, man, you would see guys going in. They would lower, actually. They had like a thing that would lower guys in. But like I said, I mean, we've talked about it enough, and God bless all the families. And I had a woman at my wedding that was in one of the buildings, and she passed away. A few cops that I worked with, their wives worked in in one of the buildings. My one friend Donnie, his wife, they were told it was a smoke condition, don't leave the building. And he
Wow.
got on the phone with her and he said, no, I'm watching TV. Get the hell out of the building now. And thank God she survived.
Yeah, man, listen, I'm up, and I always joke about this with my wife. We watched Titanic enough, the movie Titanic. That day, luckily I wasn't in that building. I wasn't anywhere close to it, but I can tell you this. I'm I'm a scaredy cat when it comes to stuff like that, Mike. So if there's a fire alarm in my building, if there's any sort of danger, I'm the first person to get the hell out. You don't have to tell me twice. Like on the Titanic, I bring that up because it was a catastrophe as well. Hey, listen, the boat got hit by an iceberg. Okay, all right. Do you want to go on lifeboat or you want to
Mm.
chill out and no, no, I'll go. I'll go.
I'll take
I'll
the
take
boat.
it. I'll take the
I'll
boat.
take the
No
boat.
problem. I'm out of there. Fire alarms in the building. We've had them a couple times in my building in Nassau, and even the most benign thing, I'm the first guy out the door. See you
Yeah.
later. You don't have to tell me twice. Sorry. And something like that. I can't imagine being in that building that day. It just. But I can tell you this much: if I was, God forbid, and if I was had an opportunity to get out, I'm not listening to anybody. I know Jason was across the street taking a plumbing exam. I think when the first one hit, they all went to the window, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, just go back. It's nothing. It must be an air balloon or something." And within minutes, like 15, 20 minutes later, the second one hit, and then they evacuated. But like at that point, I would have been out of there. My brother
Yeah.
was high up in the air. I'm not messing around. No way. No way. No way.
Yeah. Just crazy. I mean, yeah, crazy, crazy day.
But some of the positive things that came out of it, I think the country was unified. I saw they've been playing a lot about the baseball game, the World Series that year, where Bush, I guess, went to the first game of the World Series. Um, no, no, I think it was like second or third game of the World Series. Bush came out and he threw like a perfect strike, and they were
Yeah.
talking about how that was big, in terms of him throwing a strike, him showing that he was calm and cool and collected, and it kind of just divided. It cut through the bullshit, the political partisanship that you see these days. I think everybody, it's in political science, Mike, it's called rally around the flag. So basically, whoever's president is could be Republican, Democrat. You could hate the guy, love the guy, doesn't matter. And it's happened a few times in this country. December 7th, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The first Gulf War with George Bush, his senior, his popularity skyrocketed. The second one, with Bush, when we went to war in Iraq after 9/11, these guys' popularity skyrocketed into like the 80s, the 85% range.
Yeah, because you
And
go into a war and
yeah,
you beat the shit out of some small little. I mean, we beat the shit out of these countries. I mean, World War II was, I mean, obviously a much grander scale,
yeah.
but like we rolled through Iraq.
Which, by the way, I know
We
some people that signed up as a result of 9/11. They were telling me crazy stories about the first Gulf War and that one. The first one, I remember this young kid, a young Spanish kid that I was working with, and he was telling me they were riding around, I guess, like in these big bulldozers that your father used to drive around, and I guess in Flushing, in the dumps. And I guess as they were approaching the front lines of the Iraqis, they were like, instead of shooting them, they were like caving them in with sand. He goes, it was the most crazy, crazy thing,
Yeah.
Mike. Stories that came out of there.
My buddy was in the first Gulf, and he goes, I just sat outside and got a suntan for 6 months. He goes, we were just in the middle of the desert. He goes, we didn't do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
He goes, I didn't fire. He goes, I didn't fire one shot. And this guy was in the Marines. He goes, he goes, I went camping in the desert for 6 months. He goes, that was it.
I know a lot of those guys don't like to talk about that stuff, when it comes to combat. My father-in-law is one of them. I've spoken to your father a couple times. I don't think he's too keen on speaking about that crap either. So, you know, whatever, man. I think there were a couple of good things that came out of it as a result of a terrible tragedy, the unification of the country. Um, on a lot of different levels. You're talking 3,000 people and many more afterwards, 15, 20 years later, that are dead because of it. And, hope people don't ever forget. The one thing that, and I'll leave you on this note, the one thing that just sticks in my craw, though, is that I think there are places throughout the country that they did forget or they minimized it. And I don't know if it's because it happened primarily in New York or the Pentagon or Pennsylvania or whatever, but it just seems like some of these things in comparison get a little bit more publicity, and I don't think that's cool. I think there were a couple of senators that voted against aid to New York back in the day. That always stuck in my craw. I mean, but whatever.
All right. I think it's time we move on. God bless. God bless America. That's all I
God
have to
bless
say.
America. Yes,
God
sir.
bless America. So we got, what else? We got some more bad news. Omar died. Michael K. Williams. Omar from The
Yeah.
Wire died. He was a great actor. He was in, let's see, we had The Wire. He had Boardwalk Empire. He had another show on Cinemax after that. Been in a bunch of movies. It's coming out now. Oh, excuse me. It's coming out now, I guess. The guy had his issues with substance abuse, it looked like. I don't know if it was heroin or cocaine.
It was heroin, Mike.
They said they found paraphernalia in the apartment. He had gone into rehab just after, I think, making a movie recently. Great actor. I think I met him once. Well, not met him, but I saw him on the train once. And he was like this shorter little dude on the train. I was like, and this is like the height of The Wire. I was like, oh shit, that's Omar. And it was like a crowded subway train, and he didn't say anything. He just kept his head down and I think we were on the train together for like 2 stops, and then he jumped off. But
So
yeah, terrible. Just
I was a
terrible.
big fan. We'll get into it, Macho, I guess, but I was a big fan of The Wire. Um, the character of Omar Little is probably one of the most polarizing, I think, in I guess modern day sitcom. So here you have this badass gangster, and I guess his character was a homosexual. So that was part of it,
Well, that was the whole twist of it.
right?
You know,
That was part of it. I also read somewhere that I think that he developed the substance abuse as a result of trying to get in character of the guy that he was playing. So he's smoking a lot of weed. He started snorting a lot of cocaine. I don't know if I remember him getting involved in heroin, although I think that's kind of really what did him in towards the end. But what a great portrayal, man. I mean, I liked him in Boardwalk Empire too, but that was the first time I really saw him, in an extended role like that, and he was phenomenal, man. I think he really made.
oh well, I mean, it's one
I
of
think he made that show. To be honest with you,
that that character Omar was like the most anti-hero you'll ever see. The guy robbed
yeah.
drug dealers.
Right,
The
right,
guy just
right.
went around and robbed drug dealers. How cool is that? That's what made his character so amazing. If he was a drug dealer, if they would have made that character just a gay drug dealer on the show, I don't think it would have been that great. But the fact that he was one of the most violent characters on that show, the only other more violent character I'd say was who was the little black lesbian chick that was murdering everybody with the other guy.
Oh, it's been.
Snoop? Was it Snoop? Was her name
Yeah,
Snoop?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Dude, she fucking killed everybody on that show.
Dude, between me and you, I shouldn't be saying this, but there was a good buddy of mine, right? The basketball player from France. That we used to always make fun of people at work and otherwise, and we used to call this one woman. She resembled Snoop from The Wire. She looked exactly like the woman, and you know, dude, it was an interesting series to say the least. Let's put it that way. Um,
Well, we'll go into it later, but what made The Wire such a great show was you had the guy, David Simon was a writer. The guy Ed Burns was a retired cop. Like they knew the streets of Baltimore. Like they knew the inside. They had the inside track. That's what made that show so great.
Have you been to Baltimore, Mike?
I've been. The last time I was there was probably I went on a trip with guys from work. We went down to like a Baltimore Yankee game. I've been there twice with Baltimore Yankee games, and one time I stayed over. One time was a day trip. I went into where like they shot The Wire, but it seemed at that time it was almost like it seems like they're trying to gentrify that neighborhood as well,
Right,
because that's like the other side of the harbor. You could take like a ferry over and like, but I also drove around to like their 42nd Street, and if I was by myself, I think I would have been calling up family members saying like I'm gonna die tonight.
Yeah.
Because it was fucked up.
I think the last time I was there was like '96 for a Yankee Baltimore game. That was a long time ago. Let me ask you this: I mean, if you remember it, in your opinion, was Baltimore more messed up than Washington D.C. in the late '80s when we went there with the Boy Scouts?
See, uh, I don't know.
DC was kind of rough, man.
You know
DC
what?
was rough.
I mean, you have all these. There's so many like screwed up neighborhoods, fucked up neighborhoods out there that like we've never seen. We always say because like we're from New York, we think we know everything.
Yeah.
And then, dude, I remember like 15, 20 years ago, HBO did a documentary about the gangs in Missouri. Who the hell thought there were gangs in Missouri? And they were like bloods.
Right.
The blood gangs are in Missouri, and these guys are like just driving down like these residential neighborhoods,
spraying the place up,
spraying with AK-47s, just shooting everybody. Guys are showing their bullet scars. So I think if you don't know, I've driven around Baltimore in the 90s. I mean, DC in the 90s. We did like a ride along with one of the cops there. And I mean, it was fucked up. I didn't want to be there. I'll tell you that. I couldn't believe how it was fucked up. But I don't know. I mean, you're looking back at the 80s was like the height of the crack era. There was just, I
remember there with the Boy Scouts and the trips that we used to take in the late '80s. Our buddy Anthony, Maltese kid from Astoria. I remember running around him in that hostel that we went to that time with John and everybody. The '90s, I gotta be honest with you, I didn't drive around the really bad areas of Baltimore. We went to barbecue place Boog Powell's. Whole bunch of guys I was working with back at the time in the brokerage business. They were from Baltimore, so they kind of brought us to like the nicer parts of the city. So I didn't really see like the really bad parts. I just remember DC really being jammed up, man. I mean, I've been to Detroit maybe about 20 years ago. That was kind of jammed up. But again, I was there for like the All-Star game, and I was in like a nice place, for Detroit. I wasn't really going around like 8 Mile and that kind of place.
Hey, I met a white kid that grew up on 8 Mile. Like right over there. And he goes like, yeah, I was like the only white kid on my block. He goes, we had this huge house, but he goes, we were the only white family. And then like this kid has like some stories. He was telling like his uncles were like drug dealers and fucking biker gangs and the whole bit.
Yeah.
He would just, but he said, it's as fucked up as you think it would be over there. I mean, you've been there too. You've been to Bourbon Street.
Messed up. That's up there. That's up there.
If you wander, if you're on Bourbon
streets, man,
Bourbon Street is fine. But if you start to wander 3 or 4 blocks in either direction, it's game on, man.
No good. The only place that I think is really jammed up that I haven't been to. Actually, my cousin John moved out there about maybe 3-4 years ago. On my mom's side, Oakland. I hear Oakland's kind of jammed up.
Yeah. I've been to San Fran at night, but this was like almost 30 years ago.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was that bad.
The Bay Area is not bad, but I think like if you go,
Oakland's
Oakland's rough, man. Oakland's rough.
LA at night is a shithole.
I've been to LA. I didn't think that. I mean, like if you go near Hollywood, I guess and stuff. But
dude, when I went out there with me, Mark, and Adillo. This was, like I said, this was like 1990.
Yeah.
Dude, we walked around like Hollywood Boulevard and everything.
Yeah.
It was, dude, it's like 42nd Street with nice weather all year round.
I mean, I was there about 15 years ago. And again, I drove through there during the day. I drove through Compton. I mean, it looked messed up, but I mean, it didn't look anything above and beyond what we've seen here in New York or otherwise. Um, I I didn't drive there at night, so I can't say
Dude,
that.
go. That was the whole thing. You go through there at night. Like I've been to Denver too. Denver wasn't bad. Like you were talking about Detroit. I got the same thing. I got held when I went to New Orleans. We got stuck in Detroit for the night, and we had to stay in a hotel. I couldn't tell you what it was like because we just went.
Right.
The Detroit airport, by the way, is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice spot.
I went from the airport to the hotel, so I don't know how messed up. I wanted to drive. I wish we would have had time. I would have loved to went around
I
Detroit
do
and see what.
too, because we have relatives on the Maltese side, on my mom's side, in Windsor, which is right over the bridge in Canada. And apparently, it's like night and day. It's like you go over that bridge, and it's like going down Cross Bay Boulevard into the Rockaways, where all of a sudden you think like you're in a different world. That's how different it is. There are casinos there. It's really, really nice city. And I've got apparently a whole bunch of relatives on my mom's side that live there that always they're like, yeah, we're 5 minutes away from Detroit. You go over that bridge and it's like you're in a different world, man. It's just like completely different.
Well, who did that movie? That was in one of the Michael Moore movies.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one. Might have been like Fahrenheit 9/11, where he showed that difference of the town on the border of uh, Michigan and Canada.
Right.
And the town was like this white trashy kind of town where like everyone's hooked on pills and blah blah blah
Right.
blah,
Right. Right.
and everyone's got guns. And then he went into Canada and he just walked around Canada and everyone had their doors open to their house. He's just like, this is the
Yeah.
world we could live in. And
Yeah.
but,
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. But no, listen, man. I mean, the Michael K. Williams kind of took me by surprise. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of him, but I did like his stuff. Besides The Wire, I thought he was fantastic in Boardwalk Empire.
yeah, that chalky white
Um,
character was really good.
yeah, he was really good in that series. Other than that, I don't really know much about him in terms of his acting work. I know he's been in other stuff, obviously, but he's a young guy, Mike. I mean, we're 49. I mean, the guy was like in his early, he's 5 years older
Yeah.
than us, 54 years
Well,
old to drop dead like that.
there's also that, what is it, that new strain? I mean, you were saying it was Coke, which it probably was. Um, there's that new strain of a Coke out there now with fentanyl in it. There was a comedian in LA.
Yeah,
Three
yeah,
three
yeah, yeah.
comedians
The
in
three
LA
comedians, right?
died, and the one girl lived, and supposedly she's like in and out of consciousness. She's
Wow.
not even doing that well. So, I mean, a couple of the radio shows I listen to with that had comedians on it, they're talking about how like they're texting all their comedian friends saying, "Please don't do cocaine." Like it's that bad right now. I mean, people were
Yeah.
worried always about how it was like fentanyl laced with heroin, now cocaine. And I mean, I've seen videos of like cops doing search warrants on houses, and a guy will get like a couple of specks on his hand, and he'll just start to like drop out or breathe it in a
Dude, we
little.
always we got scared, what, back in the 80s, in the early 90s, I just remember, Len Bias dropping dead, your friend Henry, is a big Celtic fan. And I remember when that happened,
Yeah.
it just what always ran through my mind every time the temptation came up was like, yo, if you take this, you're going to drop dead like Len Bias. And I was scared crapless. So I just didn't do it. But I can't imagine with what the stuff that's running around now. I remember there were cop friends of mine back in the '90s telling me about PCP and how that stuff usually was laced, and how guys were taking to that and like jumping off buildings or acting like they were on
It
like
was
Superman or something.
it was funny. I was just talking to people about this, like how some drugs make you feel, and one guy says like heroin makes you feel like you're taking a bath with puppies, like it's that good. And crack just gets you like so high, and you just keep chasing that high over and over again, and you never get it. But
Dude, I saw a lot of it when I was in college, man. I remember coming home one night and we were in the fraternity house up in Hillside. We used to have like these huge mansions. Ironically, one of the houses that we had was right up the block from where Trump's mother lived, right? On
hold
Hillside.
on. If we're gonna tell St. John stories, I got someone that wants to hear them.
Oh, okay. Where is he? The Macho Man is here?
Macho time.
Macho, it's good, bro.
What's up, Muskie?
Got a big win tonight, huh?
Big win, dude. Oh my God. Thank God.
Yeah, great.
For the audience out there, Mike's the lone Met fan in this threesome.
Yeah. Sucks to be you, dude.
Yeah. Listen, man, every one of those series is the same thing. It's like either the Yankees get 2 out of 3 and whoop the shit out of them, or the Mets take 2 out of 3 and whoop the shit out of them. There's always the one game that's a give back.
Yeah.
It's always a give back game. So I don't care.
Mike, you and we've had many conversations around Shea Stadium back in the day, talking about the rivalry.
The Cathedral of Baseball, yes.
The Cathedral of Baseball. Priceless. Great
It's
movie.
priceless. Oh.
I was at, listen, all things aside, I was at Game 5, World Series 2000. I was sitting next to John Franco's neighbor. And the guy he kept on screaming how they kept on letting Al Leiter and continue to pitch into the 9th inning. The guy was like basically crying next to me. It was like Luis Sojo's, like in the single up the block, up the middle. I'm like, dude, calm down, calm down. He goes, get him the F out of the game, get him the.
But if Leiter would have pulled that out, that would have been one of the greatest performances of all time.
You know what? I could take a Derek Jeter, a Bernie Williams, Luis Sojo.
Say it ain't Soho.
Yeah.
You did it.
But
fantastic.
Yeah, that's like me. That's like me going up there and trying to hit a double or a single.
Just close your eyes and swing.
Exactly.
Something will happen.
You still playing ball, Macho, or what, man?
I can't. I haven't played in a long time. I hurt my neck a while ago, so a lot of athletic things are out of the picture.
Okay. All right.
But I loved it. Remember, Mike played softball with us. We had a good squad.
That was always a fun time. I mean,
Yeah.
you were tired at the end of the day because you worked the whole night, and then at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's like, we're gonna play 2 softball games.
Well, let me ask you this, Macho. Was it better than the juggernaut that was Teak in fraternity football back in the 90s?
Here's the thing. Teak was good in fraternity football before I got in. It was like literally the year I got in, they won that last championship. After that, we went downhill with the football.
So I'm going to throw a name out there. I'm not
basketball,
going to mention his last name, but me and Michael went to school with a fraternity brother of yours who was a great athlete. He was in Teak. Guy's first name is Juan.
Okay.
He was on the NYPD, and
Yes,
I think he was in for like a year or two. And he went to St. John's. He was in Teak. What a ball player, man. I mean, Juan could have played anything.
Yeah.
If Mike remembers him from the AMAC days and, I guess from ICYP and stuff, what a phenomenal athlete. And I think when he came to Teak, for the audience out there, me and Macho went to St. John's. We played fraternity football, which, if you couldn't get on the football team, which was a Division III football team at St. John's, you played this. And the rivalries were great. And,
a lot of fun.
For what it was worth. Yes.
Two-hand rough touch. It wasn't just like tag.
Mhm.
We were laying people out like
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree.
It was a lot of fun.
For the guys out there that didn't go to St. John's but went to school with me and Michael, the name Upback comes to mind. The Upback was like the and franchise those old flag football leagues in Astoria and Jackson Heights and stuff. So,
dude, you wore those guys wore those satin jackets around like they were the fucking Hell's Angels, man.
Dude, they were no joke, man. It's like
those guys, like you thought
the name on the side.
Yeah.
Or if you had a nickname that like Speedy, Wheels, like
Rocket.
Yeah.
Like these dudes were gonna kick you. They would stab you if you looked at them wrong.
Dude, there was a team.
Jackets.
We had our home field at 122, right? So I think either franchise or Upback played up the block from us. And I remember being at one of those games, and I guess they were playing like a game from Jackson Heights or like Elmhurst, one of those places. And I guess they were in the middle of losing. And Mike, if you remember it, they locked the gates. So the fans couldn't get out and the team couldn't get out. And I was like, yo, there's going to be some shit today.
It's going down.
Dude, it was crazy, man. Like these guys were like, you could see it. Like these are big dudes. Like all of a sudden they just pulled the gate so they couldn't get out. There was fans on both sides. And I'm just looking at the guy that I was with. I forgot who even I was with. I was just like, you know what? There's going to be some shit right now. Somebody's going to get their head, kicked in. But
every one of those games was like the end of the Wanderers.
Absolutely.
It was like gang fights.
Yeah, man.
There was always like 5 sketchy dudes who didn't play that were just milling about in the area. There was probably a gun in the trunk of at least one of the fucking cars. There was always something.
Shit, man. It was always crap. And then going back to like Richmond Hill, like I was friendly with some dudes over there. It was the same deal. Like they played Victory Park up there, and the same deal like what we were playing at St. John's Macho, like that rough touch. So just like most of those games that we're talking about were played like on concrete, like at the public schools, and in the yards and stuff. But like this was played on grass, like we played it at St. John's, and it was just like, this is like borderline felonies completed, being committed on the field, like whose legs were being trampled, whose knees were being blown out. I remember one game I was playing this game, and this older African American dude, he must have been about 10 years older than us. And I guess we were hitting him so hard, like at one point the guy he stopped playing like in the third quarter, and he just walked away. The guy was just like, he's done. Yeah. He was just getting hit so hard, man. I felt bad, but I mean, it was just people like killing this dude, man. I mean, whatever.
Good old days. Can't do that now.
No.
Imagine playing a game like that, right? You'd be in bed for like a week.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd be in traction.
But Mike, how about this? I went back to St. John's about 10, 15 years ago just to visit my fraternity. And, we started talking about football, like the stuff me and Macho talk about with you right now. So I'm like, how's the football team? They're like, oh, we still play, but it's different. What do you mean it's different? Like we used to have like 3-man lines, and like Macho says, it was pretty rough. It was as close to regular football as you could. All things considered. They're like, yeah, it's a 7-second delay. There's no 3-man line. There's one guy on the line, and you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not football. That's like, it's like touch.
That whole scene changed. It's not like it used to be back in the day when we were around there. I visited a couple times, and I was just like, I can't be here. There's no bar scene, obviously.
No.
Yeah.
Bar scene's gone. So like, what are these kids doing? I mean, but most of the kids don't even drink it. It's like
it changed when we were once. I guess my last year or two, it started to really change. I mean, Macho was he had a couple buddies who ran a bar up the block from where I DJ'd for the most part. This place called Iguanas, which was hoops back in the day. I worked at Gantries and J-Pods. I worked really all up and down Union Turnpike. But that last year or two, I guess 94 going into 95, 96, it changed, from like the kids that we went to school with, started school with. We were more of like a drinking crowd, more of like a party time. And by the time I got out, it was going like more like these guys were walking around doing ecstasy, drinking water bottles with their shirts off, going to raves and that type of crap. And those bars slowly died. I think Gantries went out of business in 01 or 02.
My kid goes to school there. They're all gone.
Yeah.
Like when I drive down, the only thing left is Galloping Green, which got changed, which is now called Cheap Shots.
And that was close to the Queens College.
And that's for all the way at the end.
Yeah.
That's not even,
I DJ'd at Galloping Green a couple times back in the day. Because I used to DJ. Muskrat did hoops. I did hoop. I mean, Muskrat did gantries. I did hoops. But Muskrat was you're already almost out of the picture. Like you were older. So I DJ'd at hoops for like 2 or 3 years. I did Galloping Green occasionally. I did a couple other spots. I did Who's on First in Manhattan a couple times. But it changed. Like even, towards the end of my college time, I was just like, this is a different scene. Like nobody's drinking. Like, you have a packed place, but the bar's not doing any work because nobody's drinking. Everybody's, they're buying water or going to the bathroom, sneaking water. You're like, everybody's tripping out.
Well, that's like, it's the same thing cop wise. No one goes out anymore.
No.
You know what all these young kids do now, Chris? Like, this is what I would say. Yo, you want to do Call of Duty tonight? They all go home.
Here's the thing. I was thinking about this today.
That's what all these kids do. I used to watch it, like in the precincts. You would watch these kids and be like,
Call of Duty kept me out of a lot of trouble. Xbox and video games kept me out of a lot of trouble over my life because there were times that I'd say to myself, I can go out drinking tonight, blow $100, go out drinking next week, blow another $100, or I can spend $50 on this game that'll keep me home, buy a 12-pack, and just chill out and save money. And it saved me a lot of money, believe it or not. I'd save my money for softball, but like especially when Mike, when you get on, even your first 5 years, you're not making a lot of money as a cop.
no.
Even with the overtime, you're maybe 60, 65-ish.
Yeah.
And that's not take home. That's before taxes.
Oh yeah.
Maybe if you get some night dips, you make some collars, you do a little better. But you're legit scraping by. Most cops have roommates. You have 2 or 3 other cop roommates. And remember me, I had Jay and a couple of Todd, a couple other guys. So video games saved me a lot of money, and you know, also when you stress out at work, you know, and you can't go to the gym, you can't do something. Let me play some Halo and shoot some aliens, and play some
Yeah.
FIFA, play some Madden, just chill out for the night, you know.
So what do you play
But
now,
it is
Macho?
different.
You still play Call of Duty or?
No, I don't play Call of Duty. I have the Xbox Series X, which is the newest Xbox that came out. The thing's like it's ridiculous. It's a mini computer. But I'm big into NHL 21. We're waiting for 22 to come out. I have a crew. We're called Lando Commando, like Lando Calrissian. And we do the online leagues. It's called World of Chell. So basically, it's 5-on-5 hockey, or you can do 6 if you have a goalie, and you play against other teams of 6 or 5. They match you up, kind of like
Okay.
FIFA. And you play like divisions, and they have playoffs, and it's all done, you know, through the system. You don't get anything out of it. You might get a different uniform or something like that. But I have a lot of friends. It's funny. I've gone to 2 weddings of people I've met on Xbox over the past. I've been on Xbox 19 years now. They're just hitting 20. Xbox Live is hitting 19. I went to a wedding in California and a wedding in Kansas City.
That's very cool,
great
bro.
time. But these are guys this was the guys I met like last week. These are guys I've been talking to and playing with since I was a rookie cop.
15, 20 years, yeah.
Easily. And like, you know, you talk to each other, you send pictures, you know, your friends on Facebook, and then you get a wedding invite. You're like, holy shit, this guy he legit wants me to go to his wedding.
That's cool, man. I mean, the only difference
Fly out
is,
7
you're
hours.
just not seeing the guys. You know, you don't have the capability of seeing them every day.
I give my wife credit because she didn't think I was totally insane. I'm like, you know, I was like, my friend, as if just invited me to California. Do you want to go? She's like, yeah, let's go. That'd be a great time. Like,
Right.
she didn't think, what are you crazy? I'm not these psychopaths you never met before.
Who is
my
this
wife-
maniac? Yeah.
See, my
What
wife
did we
is
get
the other.
invited to?
My wife is the opposite. My wife will let me do whatever the hell I want, but when it comes to video games, bro, like I might as well be doing coke on a stripper's ass, you know, in my house, you know, with my wife. I mean, she's cooled out throughout the years, but like at one point, like if I was on Xbox or playing video games, it drove her crazy. And I've been playing FIFA for about 15 years now. You know, I would say the last 5-10 years really hardcore. It's broken down a little bit differently because you don't have really the capability of teaming up with people. So it's more of like an individualized sport, but it's broken down into divisions, kind of like what you're talking about, 1 through 10. You can play competitively. I'm probably usually Division 2, Division 3 for most of the time. I think if you really get to the upper level divisions and like Madden, if you get into tournaments, you can make yourself some money. I've never really, you know, devoted myself that much to it, but I'm close. I mean, my skill level is pretty good. But I can definitely, I can relate to what you're saying in terms of, you know, developing friendships. You know, like, you know, back in the day, you developed a friendship with the kid up the block. It was me and Michael. You know, you woke up, you went to school, you saw him every day, and that was your best friend. Now I could see kids, like you said, or cops, whoever, you know, just developing friendships with people that you play video games all the time. Now you have the capability of FaceTiming and seeing them, and there's really no difference other than the physical component of it, which, you know, again, you have the ability to travel and see them at some point. So
It's
my
pretty
son is
neat.
the
Going to
same
Kansas City.
way, you know?
Going to Kansas City was pretty cool. Like, we got out, wedding was in like January, and it's freezing in Kansas City in January. It was like legit like 5 below. And we're waiting for the Uber to pick us up. And I'm like, I look at my wife and I'm like, what are we doing here? And she's like, what do you mean? We're coming to your friend's wedding. What do you mean? What are we doing here? But we had a great time. Like, it's pretty crazy because it wasn't just his, like, he didn't, like, the 2 guys, we've been playing together for a while, but it wasn't just him. All the other guys I played with showed up too. Like, we all showed up. So we had like a table of 10 guys sitting at both weddings of dudes that we've been playing, you know, Xbox with since 2000. You know
That's
what I mean?
cool.
We've been legit playing Xbox since like right after 9/11, like legit, like 2 months later, Xbox came out, and we've all been online since then. It's just one of those things that
Was there a lot of comic book guy looking guys there?
no. It was like a normal. We were the table of freaks. We were that table.
Worst
Of like
wedding ever.
No, man, it was good times. It's different.
So,
you know,
Macho,
times
where
are
were
different.
you? Me and Michael would talk about this before. Where were you on 9/11? You know, Michael told me what his story. I said where I was. Where were you that day? Were you on the
9/11.
job or?
Yeah. I had 3 years on at that point. I had done. I was well. There's not a scan, but Mike knows this because he was a boss. There was a. I had a court tour the following day. I had to go to court for a case on on September 11th. So the 10th, I used to do at that time. I was doing 6 to 2s, which is 5:30 night till 2:05 in the morning. But they let you leave at midnight if you have to do
Yeah.
court the next day. So I left at midnight. I went home, picked up a 6-pack, played fucking Xbox, whatever the hell I was playing with my roommates. We were playing Madden. We had a league. It was me, my friend Todd, and his brother. We were roommates, and we used to have a Madden league on PS2. Like this is before online. So we played till like 4 in the morning because I knew court was like nonsense all the time. Court, you go down there half the time they don't call you. I remember going into the precinct, you have to check in with the precinct at 8. You got to sign in at court by 9 for 10 o'clock. You have to be ready for it. Technically, you got to check in with the DA at 10, and then they let you know if they're going to need you. I left for I showed up to the precinct. There was a sergeant that was there. Janowicz, I don't remember his last name. He was a cool guy. I go downstairs. I tell him what I'm doing. He's like, all right, cool. Everything's good. As I'm leaving, he's like, hey, Kris, they might be calling you back. And I'm like, for what? He's like, a plane just hit one of the towers in World Trade Center. I'm like a big plane or a little? I'm thinking like it's a little plane.
Right.
He's like, I don't know. They don't know. It just came up. They didn't come over the job. It came over the radio. I'm like, really? I was like, all right, well, let me know. So me and 2 other guys had court. It was another Tracer unit that they also had court. It's me and Matt Viv and Louis. So we go down to court. We all drove one car down there because you save on, finding a spot. We're going to get breakfast, the whole 9 yards. We go to check in at court. You have to sign in, do whatever. We go to meet up with the ADAs. And all the DAs are in an office watching a TV. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? What's going on? And they're showing it. I'm like, oh, shit. Because even the radio didn't have much going on the drive there. They weren't really, they were like, I think a plane hit, blah, blah, blah. They were just kind of glossing over it. Something happened in Manhattan. And we were down there. And this is after breakfast. We go over there. And then, boom, the second plane. We watched the second plane hit on this TV. And we looked at each other. All the cops said, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Right.
So I remember we actually drove down. Louis drove down. You know who he is. Louis, you played softball with us, Mike.
Yeah.
Blonde haired Lou. We drove the wrong way down Queens Boulevard all the way back to the precinct. As we got to the precinct, Triborough Bus Company now became the MTA, but Triborough Bus used to be 115.
Yeah.
He had 2 buses already there waiting to take people down to Manhattan. We suit up, because at the time you can go and, you got to go to court in a suit or whatever. We suit up, we come back upstairs, and they're like, I'll never forget this. They're like, we already sent our 1 and 8 down there. We need to cover the mosques. And I'm like, why are we covering the mosques? And they're like, this is what came down from the borough. We need people on the mosque. I remember I covered a mosque down on right by LaGuardia Airport. Like literally, you could walk to LaGuardia from there. So close. Stayed there till and at this point, there were jets flying. Everything at that point, I was hearing over the radio. Like Morris Smith's last transmission, I heard over citywide. Like I remember sitting there being like, "What the fuck is going?" Like screaming. She was screaming, "I need help!" 10:30, and then that was it. And then everybody was coming. Like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that moment.
Yeah, you still get it till this day, man.
So they stuck me there for like maybe an hour and a half till both buildings came down. After the second building came down, a van picked me up, and when we went down there. We went down there. Like now, I lose track of time on what the time frame was. Just getting there was a pain because everything was backed up. LA wasn't like it was, a week later. We had the lane and everything. Just getting down, it was just a disaster. Everybody was just trying to shoot into Manhattan, and there was no way in. 59th Street, the Midtown Tunnel, whatever it was. I think we took the Midtown. We finally got down there. We couldn't get from Midtown to downtown at all. We were just stuck. We couldn't take the trains because everything was
everything shut down.
By the time we got down, they mustered us up. They sent us out just to. I was there when Building 7 came. I definitely remember that because it came over the radio. I don't know if you were there, Mike.
No.
Somebody came over the radio and said, 7's coming down. They said it's coming down. Everybody needs to clear 5 blocks northwest, east of whatever streets it was. And sure as shit, as soon as you stepped, we were mustered up under the West Side Highway. As soon as you stepped, boom, it came. You heard it and you felt it. Like the ground was like shaking. Smoke was shooting down the things. They set us up. They gave us like a thing. They gave us not even a map. They just had somebody was holding up a map. Said, "You guys go here. You guys go." It was so unorganized that first day. They basically said to us, "You guys are Tracer. You're gonna go recovery. You're gonna pull everybody. Tell them, walk them here, or send them towards the West Side Highway because they had city buses to move people to Midtown." We did that for a few hours, but they didn't want us anywhere near the site. They said, "Everybody clear out the site. Walk up this way. Stay." We're probably 10 or 15 blocks away, but there's still smoke. You've seen people fucked up. We went back. I don't want to kill all the time with this. We went back probably around 7, 8 o'clock at night. Somebody found us. It was me. I remember it was me and Tony from Midnight Tracer. We're the only two there that the day tour Tracer guys I went with the day tour team. And I remember I got a call because we didn't have I had a cell phone. Not everybody had a cell phone.
Yeah, that was a big thing. Like people don't remember that. I didn't have a cell phone.
You weren't allowed to have a cell phone. I had a cell phone for my girlfriend at the time. That was it. But it was a big thing. I got my cell phone story. So somebody called me. They're like, you got to find the day tour guys because we can't find them. Like the day tour Tracer unit. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like that's the one and they sent you when you went to the mosque. See if you could, because it was so unorganized. It was just a disaster. They ended up finding him at some point. They went back. I remember I was there from whatever time we got there till I remember we wrapped around, me and Tony, wrapped around to the next day, 7 o'clock at night. So the next 115 crew came and they're like, where the fuck have you guys been? And I'm like, what? We're walking around. Like literally, we did what they had us do was that night, we ended up working with Task Force in Manhattan and did verticals. We were supposed to do verticals. We ended up only doing one building because it was everything was shut down. There's no power in Lower Manhattan.
Yeah.
So we had to walk like a 30-story building looking for people that were still in the building, probably a block away to get them out, send them in the bus, send them to Midtown, figure out somewhere to put them. So I remember it took us 5-6 hours to do one vertical with this Manhattan Task Force with a megaphone and a flashlight. With the big, the blue flashlight.
Yeah, the big blue one. Yeah.
Took us probably 6 hours to work every store, knock on every door, whatever. Find people that were. Then when we came down, they had us find people that were just still in the stores hiding. People that own businesses. People. There was random people just walking around.
Yeah.
Macho, were you working with Fat Larry at the time or no?
He didn't get there till
05, 04,
yeah, he was there
05.
for a while.
Yeah, he got there.
Larry had he probably had 2 more years on than I did. You probably your time. So
It's probably 92, 93, yeah. Like around
No, Larry has 2 years less than me because he got on with in his class was 2 people I know.
Okay.
Because I remember when I got there, we were talking names, and he dropped a couple of names. I was like, "Yeah, I was cops with them," and he goes, "Oh yeah, he was in my he and her were in my company."
Yeah, you had 5 or 6 on me, so he had like 3 on me.
What about Bubba, Macho? Did you ever work with him?
Bubba, I ran into him a couple times, but I never worked with him.
Okay. He was in Queens, I think. Actually, I think he was in. I think he worked with Michael's brother actually at one point.
I think he was in Queens South because I never ran into him in Queens North.
I remember too all the rumors that was starting. I remember the first platoon, the day tour first precinct were all dead. That made it back to the Bronx when I came into work. Like how many people were just gone, and
that night they were pulling people out still. Like they were pulling like that night. I remember that was coming over there. We just pulled another 3-4 people out. We pulled another guy out here. We pulled another guy out. So it was still hopeful. Like that whole night, it was like. But I mean, as the months went on, like after that first week and a half, it went from like a rescue to a crime scene.
Yeah,
that's when everything changed. And I would go down there. I would either get the West Side Highway. There's a strip where there was a checkpoint right by the Italian restaurant used to feed us.
Yeah. That place
was right across the street from me. There's a gas station there. They used to hook us all up. Like because of 9/11, we went in there. It was like buffet style. But I remember for the first week, and then I would always get to church, which I hated getting to church.
Yeah.
Because that's where the wall of everybody's pictures were, and people would straight up walk up to you and like, officer, could you? And you're like, and they would tell you like, I couldn't tell them it was the morgue I was sitting to. I'd be like, you have to go to this address and give all the information to find out. I'm not saying it was just one of those things. Like as a cop, especially a young cop, but only 3 years on, it was just a lot to take in. It was just like, a lot of sadness, a lot of just doing what you got to do. It came down to like, listen, let's do what we got to do. Go down there, and they were long tours. You remember, Mike?
Yeah.
They were like, there were 12-hour tours.
12 hours. Okay.
Ended up being 16, 17 hours a day. You're going home for 5 hours, sleeping, going back, doing the same thing again.
Or just you're doing patrol for 12 hours tonight.
I made a collar like 3 days after. Like I was stuck in the like they didn't let us go. I made a gun collar 3 days later. I was stuck there so long with the collar that the guy that I collared showed up to the police. And he's like, I'm
Give me my
standing outside
property.
smoking a butt. He shows up. He's like, officer. And I'm like, what the? And like, I was in shock. I was like, the hell are you doing here? He's like, oh, can I get my wallet? And I'm like, wait, I didn't even talk to the DA yet. Like, how you out? They're like, no, they let me go. So they got to come back. Mind if I pick up my wallet? I was like, yeah, sure. When they gave his wallet, like, it was just like a crazy time, like a crazy 2-3 straight weeks of intense, nobody know what's going on.
No one, it was one of those things. You thought the job knew everything.
Had it together.
And it really was completely chaos. Because remember, I was telling Kris, the original 12-hour tours were 4 in the afternoon till 4 in the morning, which meant day tours were starting at 4 in the morning. So, dude, you had a job where you had to be up at like 2. If you lived upstate or a Long Island guy, you were getting up at 2:30 in the morning.
You weren't even going. A lot of guys didn't go home.
Yeah.
They put cots out in our garage.
Yeah.
With blankets and stuff. Guys were sleeping everywhere. And that first night, I remember because they took over the McDonald's. There's a McDonald's on the corner there, like directly on the corner.
Yeah.
They took over that McDonald's. The windows were blown out. That was like the command center. That's what they made the command center. That's where I got my posts. Like they gave you a map. Like this is your spot. You got to do verticals in these.
Hey, Macho, was Mike from Stan's on the FDNY at the time or no?
Yes. But at that time, I wasn't really taught. Like once I got on, I lost touch with a lot of guys because when you first get on our job, your personal time goes out the window.
Right.
The days off you're working, between everything else, and you're scared to get in trouble, whatever. Mike was working, and he got hurt. His lungs were really jacked up. Like he still got bad. He can't breathe right. You know what I mean? Like he got jacked up.
Yeah, I know he was on the. I don't know when he came off the force, off the FDNY. I mean, when did he buy stands? When did he buy into stands?
After he retired.
He's been there for a while, man. Because I remember going down to the stadium.
He worked there for a while.
Yeah.
He was a bouncer first, and a bartender, whatever else.
Right.
And he bought into it after with his retirement. He got into it, as far as I know. Like I never really spoke to him too personally about it. I see him when I go to Yankees, I see him.
I'll tell you what, I remember running into him so many times, like in the early 2000s. I'll tell you what, I remember I was there at the night the Yankees lost to the Red Sox, Game 7. I was in stands. I got I was on the verge of getting tickets. I was walking around the stadium. I went to stands, and I was going to buy a scalping ticket for about $300 in the bleachers. We're in the first inning, and Damon hit the home run, and I literally, as I was giving the money to the guy, I just like literally grabbed it out of his hand. I walked into stands, watched it for a little bit, and that was all she wrote, man.
We used to do a trip, me and the fraternity brothers. We still do once a year. Well, COVID we couldn't, but once a year we go down there, like a bunch of us, like 5, 6. See Mike for a while, go to the game, go back after, Uber home, whatever. He's doing good. Last time I spoke to him, he's doing really well. He's got a family. He's got his shit together. That's all. That's the thing with like you run into friends. You know how it is, Mike. You run into friends that it falls into one or two categories. Either they got their shit together, or you're like, God, that guy's a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
Like if I could just say the guy's got his shit together, I don't have to go any further because he's got his shit together. He's got his stuff together.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh,
same deal my fraternity, even guys that me and Mike grew up with, there's guys that are really doing really well, and, they're in our age and they're doing phenomenal. And there's some guys, you look at them, you're like, wow, man, these guys are messed up,
Yeah. Well, that's just how
I think Mike knows who I'm talking about, at least a couple of them, right? From a
Oh, yeah, we know, hey, man, Hey, thank God for civil service, bro. That's all I gotta say.
Exactly.
There's a lot of, I used to go, oh, you got it so good. I was like, take the test, man. I'm no genius, bro. I used to tell guys all the time, I was like, I got kicked out of community college and I'm your boss. Remember that.
Listen, man, I went to the private sector, man. I envy you both. I mean, I did well for myself. I make a good living, but I always, look, a lot of the guys from St. John's, a lot of guys from Mike, McClancy, they all became cops. Some of them are retired like you guys. They're doing very well. I'm envious of them. I'm 49 years old and I'm still working. And granted, I got a nice place. I have a house, I have a family, but it's like, I always think back and like, maybe if I took the job like you guys did in the early 90s and stuff, I probably wasn't ready for it mentally, but whatever, I'd be out and retired, and, living somewhat of a less stressful life. But, I harken back to that day because, obviously I know you two guys. I know a lot of people from St. John's, a lot of guys that we grew up with, friends, family that are on the force. and FDNY too, you know, and it's just like, you know, so many people were affected, you know, by 9/11, you know, like I said, there were two guys in my fraternity that passed away, you know, 10, 15, 20 years later, you know, because of illnesses directly related to it. So, I mean, it was an impactful day, man, for a lot of people. I mean, not just civil servants, but especially civil servants, because you guys were down there, you know. I mean, honestly, I haven't been to the World Trade Center probably prior since 9/11. When that happened, I never went down there. You know, I was telling Mike before, Macho, that where I lived in Astoria, like I was still going back and forth between here and the island. I met my wife at the time, so I was going back and forth between here and there. And I was sleeping at my parents' house, and you know, where me and Mike lived, like you smelt that shit that came off the river, you know, like every night. It was just like, you know, I wasn't down in the city. I didn't never visited. I've never been there since. But it's like that smell always like strikes me, you know, it sits with me. It's like, you know what? You know, for the civil service guys though, you know, I mean, look, you were there. You were there. I mean, you dug people out, you were there, you know, just I can't imagine what it was like, you know, to be down there at that point as a civil servants person, you know, whether it's FDNY or NYPD. And listen, it took a toll. You know, I'm sure you guys lost people that you knew, you know, in the buildings that day. There was a kid or two, I think, from APD at Macho. I was telling Michael before. I think that little kid, he looked like Muggsy, whatever his name was. He died in the building. There was another guy, I think, from APD that passed away in the building.
There's a bunch of St. John's guys.
Yes, there was a lot of St. John's
Five
guys.
tall guys. There's a bunch.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things that like I don't like talking about it too much. Like when people ask, I'll talk. Like when those TV specials come on, I don't like watching it
Yeah.
because like I wasn't there when they came down. I was there for 7, and that wasn't like a thing. But just dealing with everything that night till the following days, and it's one of those things like it's, I'm not going to say post traumatic or anything like that crazy, but you saw a lot. You just like Jesus Christ, like what is good? Like you see the pictures, and that's what it was like. Like that night when we were doing those verticals, the ash that was on the street, no exaggeration, that gray shit was at least a foot. Like you were shoveling in this gray stuff.
Yeah.
Like they weren't. It was everywhere. They gave you like a paper mask and walking around. It was just my eyes were killing me. Like every time you went down there, your eyes were just shot from the smoke and the soot and whatever.
Yeah.
And after a week, they started like hosing it down, and it made it worse, kind of. I don't know. It's just one of those things.
It was. It was like I said it was always like a movie set. It looked like a disaster.
It looked fake.
Yeah,
it looked fake. Like you were there and you look, and the way it was lit, you're like, is this really happening? Because you remember, Mike, they had like the facade of that one.
Yeah,
the was way standing there, and you're looking. And then there's the FD truck that's flat. There's the EMS truck that's flat. There's the RMP that's flat that they pulled, and they're like, what the fuck? What am I walking through?
I remember seeing the one part where the facade was, like right on top of it. There was like an office, and there was like still a chair and a desk there.
Yeah,
like just sitting there, and like the computer, I think for some reason the screen was like on, like the screen was all fucked up, but it was like what the and the papers.
Yeah, what is going
and then
on?
there were just papers everywhere.
Papers everywhere.
It was just
papers everywhere.
Papers everywhere.
You were finding like desks and seats. 10 blocks away. Like it was insane. It was just it didn't make any sense. Like people's cars, restaurants still open. Like when we were checking for people hiding, and we did find some people like restaurant owners like. We didn't know what to do. We're still here. We're like, listen, go to this bus thing. But like you're going in and you're like, this is surreal. Like Manhattan was shut down. It was closed. There was no power, no lights, no subways, no sound. It was dead silent except for whatever generators they brought.
Yeah, I remember it being dark. I remember being without power. Well, not in Astoria, but I remember I told Michael we picked up my brother and sister off the 59th Street Bridge. You know, they were walking over the bridge covered with crap and stuff. It was just I think they walked. I think my brother walked from. He was across the street from the World Trade Center. He walked like literally over the 59th Street Bridge, you know. And he's like, "Dude, I'm shot. You know, my legs are shot. You know, my sister was down there. I had chicken pox that day. I was telling Mike. I mean, I was home. I was just a joke of a day, man. It was really, like you said, surreal.
But the one thing I take away from that is how many people showed up to help. Like everybody. That was also the other problem is that there was so many people looking to help. but like there was no room for everybody. Like corrections was sending people, PD from Jersey was showing up, upstate troopers, everybody, and they were all showing up to one spot. And at that time, now I'm sure they're more organized, but at that time it was just like we
You
can't,
guys ever?
we don't know.
Yeah.
Either one of you guys ever see anybody famous like Buscemi or like any
Oh
of the
yeah,
sports?
I
Sports
saw
people?
Buscemi a couple
Yeah.
times. I saw, God, so many people, because a lot of when I had that church detail, a lot of actors would stop by the church
Right.
because that's where they had the a lot of, there was literally a fence that was just a wall of photos
Yeah.
of people that were missing and
I
people.
know
Remember, Mike,
Gandolfini was
I used to wear a
was down
patch
there
on
too
my
a lot. Right?
my magazine holder. Remember, Mike, that some bosses would yell at me for?
Yeah.
It was a little American flag.
Yeah.
Some mother came up to me that second or third night and was like, I can't find my son, but I'd like you to have this. And if you
Yeah.
could wear this all the time, it would mean something to me. And I always wore it. Remember, I always had it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, boss would be like, you got to get that flag off your ammo pouch. It's like, I'm not taking it off. You're going to give me a hit. Give me a hit. I've had this since, 9/11, whatever. But actors, yeah, you would run into people. They would show up it was mostly during the daytime. And I worked nights. So I'd run into them, when I was waiting for my change, my face-to-face relief
Yeah.
on whatever
Yeah.
post I was at. That would take, it'd be like 1:00 in the afternoon. But guys would come by.
Yeah. A lot of them would come down and get like the guided tour.
Yeah, they'd come
And,
here, they'd come there,
yeah.
church here, the command post. Then
I
they had
heard,
the tent set up.
I heard Harvey Keitel was very nice. One of my friends was down there when he was down there. They were
Oh,
like,
that's cool. Okay.
he's supposedly very. I also have another story that we can't get into about him, where he was super nice to a bunch of guys that worked like an off-duty gig when he got married, and the guys working the gig went to a bar across the street, and they walked in. Guys put their hands in their pockets. They're like, no. Harvey's got you guys for tonight. Don't worry about it. And they were like, oh, okay. So they just started pounding away.
Worked out.
But we got like a minute left. Let's wrap this up. I don't want to do plugs this week because of 9/11. I think we should just leave it like this. And the best thing, Kris, thanks for coming on. Macho time.
Thanks, guys.
Macho man.
The big thing, I guess we're going to take away from this is act like every day is 9/12.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike.
So, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Be good. Be excellent to each other.
Have a good
Later.
weekend, everyone. Thank
Have a
you.
good one.